When he wants to be a superstar, he is a superstar. He's trying to be a superstar, but someone else is getting the treatment he perhaps thinks he deserves. You say a lot of his unhappiness is with LeBron is about on the court. You talked about LeBron being the focal of the offense, but what about the off-the-court issues that perhaps bother him?
Well, look, I mean, the Cavs LeBron gets whatever he wants from the Cavs, right? He wants a no-trade clause, he gets a no-trade clause. He wants his friend to be able to travel with him, have a spot on the staff. Randy Mims, yeah, he gets to do that. Damon Jones, that's like LeBron's friend. He's one of the assistant coaches now.
Sure.
Kyrie doesn't get any of that. And then he looks at some of his contemporaries like John Wall or Damian Lillard. They are the apple of their franchise's eye, right? I mean, that's
Ramona, am I stating the obvious? It's LeBron James. He's the greatest player in the world. Of course he's going to get this treatment, and you're not, no matter how great you are. I'm not taking sides, but it's just so obvious.
It is, and yet when you are a great player, when you have that inside you. Remember Kyrie, his rookie year, said, the guy I want to challenge one-on-one is Kobe?
Oh.
Right? Remember that guy?
Ooh.
Like, I think he has that same thing inside of him, and it reminds me a little of what went down in L.A. about 10 years ago.
When Kobe wanted to trade, he was tired of Shaq. I want out, 07. Talk to me about how you feel as if they're similar.
Well, here's what's amazing about this is it's like 10 years, right? It's like, it's so, the synchronicity of it is amazing. And you look at how that worked out for the Lakers, how that worked out for Kobe. Like, he went on every radio station you could think of and said, I want to be traded. I want out. Because the Lakers promised me that when Shaq left, that they were going to build a team around me and we were going to still contend. And obviously they didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. And so he felt like they had not made good on their word to him. And that team around him was not going to win. Well, he made all those demands. They called around the league. There was a deal in place with the Chicago Bulls. Kobe had a no-trade clause, though. And the trade that they talked about with the Chicago Bulls was going to take so much away from the Bulls that Kobe didn't necessarily think the Bulls would be strong enough. But you know how serious they were? He told me once, he goes, I was looking at real estate in Chicago. Well, guess what? Kobe didn't get traded. Like, we went to training camp the next year. In October, I remember standing there, and we were like, is Kobe going to show up? Right? Is he going to, like, is he coming? Well, he showed up, he played, and guess what happened that year? Andrew Bynum got good. Yeah, they traded from Pau Gasol. They went to the finals. They went to 3 more finals. These things happen like this.
So the way that from my understanding, it makes sense. You're saying that Kyrie is tired of being in LeBron's shadow. He knows he's a star. He is a star. Many people, especially on the Twitter, will say, but if it wasn't for Kyrie's 3, and if it wasn't for this, and if it wasn't for that, all true, all great, but you're playing with LeBron. So you, and
but
fairness,
for how much longer?
So he wants out now. Why can't he just stay there and make that his team?
Well, why?
If he knows that LeBron is leaving, why then he wants to go somewhere else and have a fresh start and be around some other stars?
Because it's kind of always going to be like that, right? It's always going to be like that in Cleveland. Even if LeBron's not there anymore, the organization had catered to him for so long and put him in that role so long. How are they going to all of a sudden treat Kyrie so much differently?
I see.
And I think, like, honestly, Carrie, it's sort of, you got to give it up to Kyrie in a lot of ways. Like, he kind of sees the writing on the wall and says, I'm not going to sit back and wait. I want to take my destiny in my own hands.
So the question is, and we can speak to that later. We're supposed to have Stephen A. on the show. Is why that we hear that he's not necessarily happy that the news got out that he wants to be traded. Talk to me about how not having a GM for over a month played into all of this.
So much of what a general manager does is behind the scenes. Like, we all know when they make the big moves and you get the salary cap guys and you got to come up with deal constructions and make the calls. So much of what general managers like David Griffin do is behind the scenes working with egos. Like, look at the 3 egos that he's dealing with in Cleveland. Kyrie, okay, who is like the kid, and Kyrie is so hard on himself and also wants more. LeBron, who's passive-aggressive subtweeting all the time. And Dan Gilbert, who's going to fire off.
I call it LeBroning.
LeBroning?
Yeah.
Well, the tweet he put out the other night maybe not have been a subtweet.
No.
That was pretty clear. The Meek Mill song?
Yeah.
That was pretty clear. But when you look at when you look at what David Griffin has had to keep together between Dan Gilbert, who's just going to fire off angry emails, who's going to get famously eruptive, I think is the word that I use, the phrase. David Griffin has kept that balance for 3 years. I don't know how he did it. Okay, because those are some big egos and some complicated sets of people to keep on the same page. Well, when he was fired a couple days before the draft, all that went away. So when they were talking about, okay, Kyrie, do you want to be traded? Are you happy here? You want to be here long term? They were trying to engage Kyrie on that because they knew his frustration had been building. They kept him in the loop the whole time when David Griffin was there. Then Griff is out right before the draft, and those conversations were ongoing. And instead of being in partnership with Jeff Wexler, his agent, and Kyrie Irving, telling him what's going on, that didn't happen as much anymore.
Yeah.
And when you don't have people behind the scenes managing things, and we all know, look, we're in the same business, right? There's a lot of egos involved, a lot of personalities involved.
What?
You need people behind the scenes to hold your hand, right? You
Right.
need people behind the scenes to make things right, smooth things out. That's kind of a lot of what David Griffin did. He wasn't there anymore.
Okay, so you can't blame Kyrie for not wanting to be in anyone else's shadow when he knows he is a star in his own right. Thank you so much for trying to give us some context to all of this. Whether or not you think he gets traded, no, yes or no, quickly, because they're saying I gotta go.
I would say no, not before the season. I think they're going to wait.
All right.